It's actually been found that he's been issued 27 summonses.
I'm not saying that Zaid Hamidi present is not helping at all.
So they have to stir the pot here a little bit. Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Headlines, the go-to space for the top stories that made the headlines and more. My name is Amalina Kamal.
And I'm Hazwin Hassan. As the Sg Bakap polling day approaches, the dynamics of voter support, demographic influences and turnout will shape the final outcome. A recent survey by Institute Darul Ehsan IDE shows a trend favouring Pakatan Harapan. However, voter turnout remains pivotal. While the expected turnout is around 60%, if it exceeds 70%, Pakatan Nasional might just retain the seat with a narrow majority. Mobilizing voters is now going to be crucial for both parties.
Yes, but the reality is that Sg Bakap on ordinary days is just another sleepy town. Now, in the quest to secure the state seat, the bigger question is how can the attention maintain its momentum after the polls, and can local woes of voters finally be resolved? For this, we have our very special guest, political analyst Prof Mujibu Abd Muis, to discuss on the upcoming by-election. Now, Professor, I just want to thank you for accommodating us. I know that you're rushing from Kuala Lumpur to Penang as we speak, and you have been on the ground, collecting data and everything. Based on the recent survey by the Institute Darul Ehsan IDE here, in which Hazwin mentioned earlier, there is an indication that PH has garnered substantial support. However, it's crucial to consider the underlying reasons behind this trend. What are they? Do you think, the considerations that I meant? And is your analysis different from IDE?
First thing, IDE survey have given us a general background on what is going to happen during the election day. There are several reasons for it. One of the thing is the demographic factor in this area, which is the Malay command the majority, consisting of 60% out of the almost 40,000 voters here. So basically, if any party who have commanded the votes from the Malay is going to be the winner on Saturday. But somehow, due to the fact that it is a direct contestation between Pakatan Nasional and Pakatan Harapan with a very different setting of what we have in the last general election as well as the state election. So basically, if UMNO managed to gain back of their support of their white voters, of their grassroots voters, as well as PH managed to contain their non-Malay voters, and then if they manage to control this, so we can simply say that Pakatan Harapan stand a chance to win the by-election.
All right, Professor, how crucial do you think the voting patterns in Sg Bakap can influence, the upcoming results?
Of what I have observed here in Sg Bakap, which is the most crucial one, is the turnout factor. Because according to our last observation, in the last state election, the turnout was good. It is around 76%. So expecting that the by-election is not going to reach, or maybe the turnout will be around 60%. So that will be a crucial factor for Pakatan Harapan, because low turnout with the split votes between the Malays and the, let's say, the successfulness of Pakatan Harapan to gain the Malay votes. So the chances of Pakatan Nasional of winning it is going to be slim. So these are the factors that need to be observed, and the readings on how we are going to say that Pakatan Harapan is going to win or Pakatan Nasional is going to win, depending on these two factors.
Historically, as you rightfully put it, the turnout in Sg Bakap has been about 60%. And what you mentioned is that what the Pakatan Harapan's side must carefully consider is that if the voter turnout is low, then there will be a split in the vote. But if the voter turnout is high, then it will fall to the Pakatan National side. But in this case, right, in the particular by-election, what could influence voter turnout on election day itself?
Well, it is not my job to suggest that how they are going to influence. But I would like to share you some of the facts that may help or may motivate people to come out to vote in Sungai Bakap. Number one is the long weekend holidays, because everybody knows that we are going to have Monday holidays, so the weekend will be longer, and this might help people to come back. And number two, most of the voters in Sungai Bakap were actually not living the so-called the outside voters as perceived as outsides, because most of them are working in Pulau Pinang. So they are just simply staying outside the area, not outside the state, because they are working in Seberang Perai, they are working in the island. So long weekend and the distance between Sungai Bakap and their current resident, it might help for them to go and vote. Despite what I observe is the motivation for the people to vote in by-election will actually diminish, because of they are having a thought that this by-election is just simply a replacement of the vacancy left by the incumbent. Yeah, it is not like the general election where they say that they have the responsibility to appoint the state government or send somebody to be the federal government. So whether you like it or not, for me, the job or the responsibility to attract people or to attract voters to come to vote or return home to vote need to be played well by these two stakeholders. Number one, of course, political party. And number two, constant campaign from the SPR.
How much do you think does public perception help Dr. Johan Arifin and Abidin Ismail's chances here?
Both parties, from my observation, stand a good chance to win. Because the difference between winning it and losing it is very slim. It depends on how well the party control their machinery throughout the campaign. And of course, the most important thing is how well they manage to command their grassroots, especially the so-called the white voters of each party. And most of the campaign that I observe have been touching about the political development since what we call Penang as the industrial state need the constant development, and of course the government's incentives, so on and so forth, will help. Especially the local voters have cried to say that Sungai Bakap is near to the southern development areas in Penang, and it is the responsibility of the government to bring that development to their area as well, because it is not that far anymore from Sungai Bakap, Jawi, to this Nibung Tebal industrial area somewhere around Simpang Empat, Batu Kawan, so on and so forth. So that is the narrative.
How do you think the visit, or at least the presence of our Deputy Prime Minister Zahid Hamidi in Sungai Bakap may influence voter turnout?
Zahid Hamidi, I'm not saying that Zahid Hamidi present is not helping at all, despite of maybe controversial figure as he is. But somehow it helps for the UMNO members, because the presence of presidents, the way he talked to them, the way he explains the scenario to clear the air between the grassroots and the top leadership of UMNO, that will help for the UMNO party. And this is crucial because, as we know, UMNO is a very grassroots party. So commanding UMNO grassroots votes for PH, and lure them to give their votes, not turning their votes as they used to be in the state election, will help Pakatan Harapan and Kerajaan Perpaduan to win this thing.
Okay, Professor, I want to get your thoughts on this as well. Just recently at the Ceramah, PAS Information Chief Ahmad Fadli Shari told Sungai Bakap voters to support and vote for the Pakatan national candidate to save UMNO. Now, of course, in retaliation, UMNO actually said that PAS should not be hypocrites and to focus on helping Bersatu in winning the Sungai Bakap seat. So is this going to help or ruin PAS's cause here?
One thing we have to understand, the template is already changed. The practice of having one dominant party rules for everything is not going to be repeated in the near future. So we need to be realistic and we need to be practical in this thing. So UMNO had made it clear because the Kerajaan Perpaduan is only because we don't have the majority. And the fact that government need to be established during the time. And the Yang di-Pertuan Agong has ordered that whoever did come to him and present to him the majority have the right to form the government. And every party during the time have been given the chances to do this thing. And Perikatan Nasional unfortunately rejected the idea and Barisan Nasional finally. So attacking Barisan Nasional, especially UMNO in this thing, were a bit, for me, unfair. And it is politically speaking, it is a political motive, obviously.
So obviously you do not think that it's going to
I
help.
don't think it is that important. Just simply a mere rhetorical, just to simply to spice up things during the campaign. Yeah, in which for me, just to attract the attention of the UMNO members, just to attract the Malay the Malay voters. This is for me part and parcel in election. there is nothing much lah.
Well, we've seen UMNO accusing PAS time and time again, especially of using Muafakat Nasional and Perikatan Nasional to split the Malay votes, and that it has done enough damage to the party from their loose coalition after the 14th general election. Do you think PAS and UMNO can reconcile in the future?
Okay. Yeah, for me, when it comes to politics, nothing is impossible because of the dynamics of politics. Putting survival in front of everything. So I could not simply reject the idea that PAS may not, or let's say, will not going to cooperate with UMNO in the future, because everything is possible for me. It depends on timing and circumstances. Because what we have in Kerajaan Perpaduan as well might not be last when it comes to the election, and it depends on how well they are doing as a unit, as a government for right now. So I could not see why not Barisan Nasional, UMNO especially, cooperating with PAS in the name of Malay Muslim in the near future, and I also did not see why PAS does not want to join Pakatan Harapan as a unit to make government stronger, and because when everybody in the same team, so anything possible, and things can be achieved with greater what we call cooperation. So that is the possible scenarios that we can simply see, because the thing is these are simply rhetorical things that synonymously associated with any by-election or any election.
Right. But do you think PAS is just comfortable being in the check and balance role?
Of course, good politics must be balanced between effective government and visible effective government and visible and responsible opposition. That's why check and balance needed to be done, and this effective check and balance can only be done if government have been checked and government have been balanced by a good and effective opposition. So I would like to see this thing. But so far, according to my observation, I could not see this thing happen with our current opposition. Although the current opposition have very sound numbers in House of Legislation, especially in state legislation or in our federal legislation, most of them considered as youngsters, but the quality of them as a what we call opposition is not that par when the Pakatan Harapan used to be an opposition. Yeah, because I expect them to be a good whistleblower. Yeah, for example, how Rafizi and the gang become a good whistleblower in 1MDB in NFC cases. But it is not happen because for me as an opposition, effective opposition, they must come with this thing. And of course, I also expect them to come with a good alternative, good suggestion to balance, to counter the government's idea, government's policy, government's law. This need to be done in order for them not only showing them as a good opposition, but portray themselves as a future in waiting government.
Between Pakatan Harapan's candidate and Pakatan National's candidate, who do you think fared better?
Okay, both of them are very known to the local, especially the Pakatan National, because he used to be a special aide to the former YB, and of course he is the member of the Masjid Karya, well known to the local. Yet maybe the idea of him being known to the grassroots, but not coming with a good education, is not an asset during for this time. Compared to Johari, which is having a very good academic background, an ex-teacher, but somehow he is not a party man, which is for me sometimes good. Because this was for me a pattern in Kerajaan Perpaduan, seeing what happened in last Kemaman as well as Kuala Kubu Baru election, when the Pakatan Harapan, especially the unity government, start to break away from the templates that putting party men to contest in the election rather than taking a professional or outsiders to stand as their candidate, which is very good. The disadvantages and advantages of these two candidates were balanced by the parties, were balanced by the machineries, were balanced by the narrative. It was pro and cons for the voters to make up their mind.
From your ground readings, what are some of the worries, when it comes to fairness of the electoral process that you have gathered in Sungai Bakap?
Well, from my observation throughout the campaign, this can be considered as a very calm and very stable election. There are no misconduct happen. Maybe some of a small hiccups here and there. But as far as I'm concerned, there are no 3R issues were touched. No big controversy, no personal attack whatsoever. It's a very good election. Maybe the idea of election integrity, because I can simply say that the election integrity is getting better and better from one by-election to another. We did not see any. And we say that any major misconduct, let's say using money in campaign, misuse of government assets, so on and so forth.
What do you make of the two police reports of alleged election offences so far? I mean, the first one being against Pakatan Harapan with 53 of their flags and 38 banners taken down and then replaced with Pakatan Nationals. Who do you think is actually behind this?
For me, it is something that, although it is considered maybe minor problem, and it is also known as a regular, or can we say it is a normal and regular things that always happen in any elections. You cannot control everything because there are members of parties that may getting emotional. Yeah, they are too carried away with this what we call by-election. So things like that happens. But for me, so long it is not going to be a major, which is maybe slandering people, heavy individual character assassination, touching a very sensitive issue like race, royal, and religions, that will be a good enough.
Professor, I would like to also understand if the outcome of this by-election would influence or affect the upcoming Niri by-election.
Indeed, yes, indeed. Because the trend of by-election were observed not only by the local or what we call the local voters, but as well as the outsiders as well. And Nengiri is very crucial because we are expecting UMNO to contest in that election. If UMNO contesting there, so the performance of UMNO in Pakatan, in unity government will be major concerns of people whether UMNO can deliver, and of course, if UMNO can deliver in what on what happened on last KKB, as well as maybe if they manage to wrestle back the Sungai Bakap seat to the Pakatan Harapan or the unity government currently. So it will tremendously give a very significant implication to UMNO.
Right.
And of course, if the other way around, if vice versa happen to Pakatan Nasional, it definitely heat up everything. And Nengiri, considered as a Malay belt area, which is most of the voters are the Malay Bumiputra as well as the Orang Asli, is going to be a battleground for both UMNO and Pakatan Nasional.
Right. You know, we often see by-elections come and go, but the immediate implication in the situation where a candidate has been selected but the local concerns continue to be overlooked is substantial, right? So either, regardless between PH or PN, if the party takes over Sungai Bakap here, what should be their first course of action?
Yeah, there will be an implication, definitely, because candidate not only stand as a legislative members that representing the people of his or her constituency, but it will also carry the reputation of the party. So this will be interconnectedly not only to the candidate itself, but to the party as well. So whether you like it or not, you are actually representing your name as a Wakil Rakyat and also your party as an organization or as an institution. So whether you like it or not, this need to be go hand in hand. You need to be as an effective, as an efficient representative that may deliver to your people, that may give the best service for the people. But in the same time, you must representing the party, by portraying that you are a very good coalition, you are in a good organization, you have a very structured, you have a very what we call convincing party that can work as a team, that can deliver, that have a synonym with effective and efficient in delivery, that have a tradition. Let's say if you are Malay party, that you may portray that you are the true representative of the Malay, that every Malay society or every Malay community can depend on. These are the things that need to be portrayed for everybody. So if you are not performing, then not only you tarnish yourself as a bad representative, but you are also giving your party a bad name.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Mujibu Abd Muis. There you go. Now, Hazwin, just to kind of recap for a bit. So, Professor's concern here is in the event that there is a low voter turnout, then that will actually mean that there is very low or little faith towards the by-election itself or towards this process of campaigning, right? But if there's a high voter turnout, then Pakatan National will be able to retain their seat. That, I mean, in our past discussion, that is what at least what Dr. Ong Kiami mentioned, right? So if you are defending your seat, so that should be your main goal. But for our unity government to kind of stress test their popularity, so they have to like stir the pot here a little bit. All right, but I would like to now go to our second topic of interest before we end the show, particularly concerning a particular news report on Wednesday in which a Malaysian driver at the center of a tragic tour bus accident resulting in the deaths of 2 Chinese tourists faced 2 charges in the magistrate's court in Raut Pahang. The 32-year-old actually pleaded not guilty to 2 accounts of causing the deaths of 58-year-old Zhang Ping and 49-year-old Wang Xiuhong through reckless or dangerous driving as stipulated under Section 41(1) of the Malaysia's Road Transport Act 1987. Now, Hazwin, maybe you can enlighten our audience on the developments surrounding this particular news report.
Right. Amilai, thank you for that introduction. So the driver of the tour bus that was involved in the fatal Genting crash on June 29th has been charged in court, and he's pleaded not guilty to charges of reckless driving and driving without a valid license. So, as you rightly mentioned, it ended up with in the deaths of 2 Chinese tourists and injured more than 10 other passengers who were on the bus as well. So, this has prompted a lot of questions about road safety. Road safety experts and groups and the likes have all voiced their concerns about why enforcement and the government in particular hasn't been on the ball, so to speak, in terms of enhancing road safety, because this incident isn't isolated. It's not unprecedented. In fact, it's part of a 30-year dark history, if I may, involving that Genting road stretch, right? So,
and not long ago, there was an accident actually, but it didn't involve a bus per se as the vehicle. It involved a van, but similarly Chinese tourists as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's really appalling that we've had this really long history of fatal accidents. In fact, if I can just go through the list of the last 30 years, at least from 1996 all the way up to now, that's involved tour buses, right? So, it's just one thing, that stretch alone, it speaks of how dangerous that stretch alone, right? We all know how how winding the roads are leading up to Genting, but obviously there needs to be more measures put in place to put an end to this. So I'll just briefly go through this dark history that we've had of deadly accidents, crashes there involving buses. So from the most previous one, June 29th, 2 Chinese nationals, 19 others, that's almost 20 other people injured in that accident. Before that, we had the July 28th crash in 2016 that killed, where a bus driver was killed and 15 passengers were injured. 2013, we had an accident where 37 people were killed after a bus plunged that was carrying 53 passengers into a ravine, also downhill from Genting Highlands. 2010, 7 people were killed, 20 others were injured, again, when they were on board a bus traveling downhill from Genting Sempah, on the Genting Sempah highway. 2006, November 20th, 3 officers of the Thailand Provincial Electricity Authority were killed and 14 others seriously injured when their bus overturned along the same stretch. And I think it's somewhere along the same spot as well. It's at kilometer 13 of the Genting Highlands Batang Kali stretch. 2001, 2 passengers killed, another injured. 1999, 12-year-old Singaporean boy killed and 6 others injured. 1996, there were 2. One in December at the end of the year, 31st, and one in July on the 15th. 17 people were killed and 15 others injured. So it's a long, dark history.
And
it
this
really
is just
does,
in Genting itself, that stretch.
Exactly, it's along that stretch. So, and I mean, number one, it brings up the question of, just how dangerous that stretch is. And is there, obviously, the first thing that comes to mind in terms of road safety, do we need to do something about the infrastructure of the road to make sure we can bring down those numbers?
But aside from the infrastructure, I think reaction. I mean the how authorities handled it is pretty reactive, and I'm sure road condition is just one aspect. Another key aspect is to ensure that the drivers or anyone, the person behind the wheel, actually has proper legal credentials for operating it, right?
Yes,
So.
I mean, in this case, with the driver involved, the most recent accident here, this isn't his first case of where he's found to have not a valid driver's license on the job, right? In the past few years, it's actually been found that he's been issued 27 summonses, right? Mostly for the same offence, for not having a valid driver's license, but also coupled with beating a red light, being involved in another accident, and driving without a valid road tax. So obviously, this then all fingers points to the tour bus company, the operator. Weren't they doing their job? Are they not vetting their drivers? Are they skipping certain procedures during the hiring process? Did HR not do a background check? And I mean, that's not even including the fact that, these tour bus drivers, you also have to check for criminal records. You have to check for, to make sure that they test negative for drug tests, urine tests. I mean, surely, if they didn't catch on to the fact that he'd have a valid driver's license, what more about those other things I just mentioned?
And certainly begs the question of, what, I mean, has the authorities been sleeping? Like, where's the oversight from them, right?
Exactly.
In this sense. So at least to our audience, I just want to kind of like go through my last conversation. Actually, when we tried to reach out to APAD. I mean, unfortunately, APAD was not able to attend. And then, as per or what was already reported, but they did mention that whenever an accident such as what was reported takes place, it involves multiple agencies in which each agency will have their own responsibilities. For APAD, APAD agensi ini hanya terlibat daripada pengeluaran permit kenderaan bas persiaran sahaja. So it's on the issuance of the permits only. But as far as the condition of the bus and the let's say whether or not a particular road safety issue has been breached, it falls under either JPJ or the police, right? So, I mean, again, how can we streamline the enforcement here to be, I suppose, standardized? Right? Not super disconnected in this sense. Because as you mentioned, the past 30 years have been quite, I mean, especially when it comes to Genting.
True, yeah.
I don't want to say eventful because, it involves death.
I mean, obviously it's very unfortunate that this has had to happen, but, it's been on the cards. It's not like this is an isolated event and, it's part of a long history. But before I actually forget, I just want to give, you have to give credit where credit is due. So the crash happened on the 29th of June, and immediately the day after, MOTAC, which oversees, the licensing of these tour buses and companies, they immediately suspended the license of the tour bus company operating these buses, right? So good on that part that they did that immediately. I don't think it could have been quick sooner than that, and I think that was one good response out of them. But this also boils down to whether or not, speaking of streamlining agencies and authorities on this, it does boil down to the fact that are we just depending on enforcement to have to fix things? Because obviously, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of the response has been just reactive. So the thing about this, which to me is really sad, is that it's taken an incident like this, which has killed 2 people, and 2 tourists at that, for the Ministry of Transport, the MOT, to then carry out a nationwide inspection on all buses, just to ensure that all drivers are actually fit to drive and do indeed carry a valid driver's license. This simply isn't good enough, and just another example of that reactive response from authorities. And this inspection, a nationwide response from the authorities, was carried out about 3 days after the fact, after the fatal Genting crash, which again is a bit too late. And just from what was reported, just from the inspection at the Gombak Toll Plaza, there were already at least 3 summonses issued out for a similar offence, for drivers not having valid driver's license. And in one case in particular, it involved a man who stood in for his brother, who was actually the lawfully employed driver to drive the bus. So the brother wasn't well enough; he was sick, and so he asked his brother to stand in for him and drive, but the brother didn't have a valid driver's license on him. So again, this is what if the crash didn't happen? So we wouldn't have had this inspection. Again, this is simply not good enough, and the government really needs to step up. So in terms of streamlining, there must be more coordination between, say, the ministry that oversees everything and the agencies and the bodies under the ministry that make sure that the law is followed and is enforced. And then that trickles down onto these tour bus operators and companies who then have to follow. But there must be constant monitoring. There must be constant feedback from these companies all the way up to the agencies, all the way up to the ministers. And I can guarantee you that because it's been such a long history of these accidents happening, it's not happening, as in this coordination between the agencies and the top authorities in the ministry. It's not happening. I mean, there's no way to hide this anymore. So it is falls onto the government really to start stepping up. But again, credit to the government, MOTAC, the ministry, for suspending the license immediately. But I think they need to do better.
Do better in a sense whereby we won't have to report on any other future accidents. So anyway, unfortunately, this is the end of the episode. We hope you enjoyed the conversation that we've shared thus far. If you like this particular episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on that notification bell if you haven't already. You will get not just beyond the headlines updates, but other reports under NSC Online. Again, I would like to thank my guest earlier on, Professor Mujibu Abd Muis, for sharing his insights on the upcoming Sungai Bakap polls, as well as my co-host Hazwin Hassan. Thank you so much on giving us somewhat of a brief breakdown and a reality slap, I suppose, when it comes to road safety as well as responsibility here, right? So again, to our audience back home, follow us on social media, X, Instagram, Threads, as well as TikTok. My name is Amalina Kamal, and I'll see you next week.